Hi there, it's Carol Doherty. Today I want to talk about how you can use curiosity at work as a woman in STEM to build your career. That may sound a little crazy, but as a woman in STEM, I've always been curious. I was that kid that asked why enough times to drive my mother insane. And I made a few teachers crazy along the way as well, because I always wanted to know why. I wanted to see what was going on behind the scenes. I would have been in Wizard of Oz looking behind the curtain because I want to know how things work and what's going on and why is this happening and why do people do what they do? Why do they show up the way they do? So that's what I want to talk about today. And the interesting thing for me is that curiosity is something that can be so powerful. Dale Carnegie has a great quote from his book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I know it was written 100 years ago, but there's still a lot of truth to what he taught. And one of his quotes is, you can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get other people interested in you. Stephen Covey in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People says it slightly differently. He says that you should seek first to understand and then be understood. They're getting at the same thing. If you get to know what's going on with other people first, they're going to want to know what's going on with you. And here's how it showed up for me at work. I worked in a huge factory. It was like 5 million square feet under roof. When I say huge factory, I mean huge factory. And I don't know, 2,500 employees at the time I was first starting there. And my job meant supporting the shop floor. So we were heavy manufacturing. So I was out on the shop floor all the time. And here I am, one of the few female engineers, period, in the whole organization. And most of the time, I was the youngest female engineer there. So a lot of the guys out on the shop floor, and I say guys, literally, there were very, very few women on the shop floor at that factory. But a lot of the people out on the shop floor had kids older than I was. They had been working there longer than I had been alive. So it was kind of a strange dynamic. I mean, the youngest person in the factory, seniority-wise, had 28 years, I think, at one point when I was there. And I was probably 28 years old at the time. That's how different I was from them. Okay? And so how do I make connections? I went out and I talked to them. I would go to the departments I was supporting, and I'd be looking at the parts, looking at the process, looking at what was going on, and I would be chatting with the people that were there. And it was a chat. It was, hey, how's it going? What did you think of the Bears this week? We were in Iowa, or what do you think? Did you watch the Bears game or the Packers game or whatever? And I started to learn more about them as a person. Now, the interesting thing is the next time I went out, and if I knew they were a Bears fan and the Bears had just had a great game, I could talk about the Bears. I was not a Bears fan, by the way, but I could talk about the game. And they appreciated the fact that I knew a little bit about them. Or if they were off because a kid was getting married. Oh, how was the wedding? Did you have a great time? Those sort of things. I was interested in them as a person. Now, how that paid off for me was down the road when I would come back out and say, hey, I've been getting some complaints about X. What have you been seeing? They're going to talk to me because they'll tell me what they're experiencing because they know I'll listen. Because I listen to the little stuff. And that means I'll listen to the big stuff. And so they'll tell me. And they'll know that I'm genuinely curious and I'm not seeking to get anybody in trouble. I want to know. So I got great information. I got more support and more help from the folks on the shop floor because I would go out and treat them like people. I would joke with them. We would laugh. We would, talk about the weather, the sports, families, whatever. And we saw each other as people. So because I treated them with respect, they treated me with respect. Now, did they yank my chain? Did they like to joke around with me and tease me? Oh, yeah. They saw me as a person. And so when I would go out and say, hey, I've got this problem. What's going on? What are you guys seeing? They talked to me. And I applied those same principles to the people above me in the food chain or my peers. And so I got to know a lot of people in this huge factory, and I gained a ton of respect. People would come to me with questions because they knew they would be heard. And they could come to me with ideas or problems or challenges and know they would be listened to. So I real quickly got a reputation as somebody who could talk to anybody and that people would listen to. And that can be so hard as a woman in STEM, particularly if you look at my circumstance. I'm 28 years old, and the people I'm talking to have been in the factory 30 years. Why would they listen to me? They listened to me because I listened to them. And that's where my ability to make connections, to get results, I had no authority over these folks. They were UAW. It was a union factory. I could operate within very limited bounds, and I had to be very careful if I was giving them work direction on how I went about it, because there were rules, right? So, but I could go out and I could even push the edges of those rules or tromp all over them a couple of times, and people would still pay attention and work with me because I had shown a willingness to understand what they're going through, what they're seeing, what their day-to-day is like. So they were willing to help me. So that idea of being interested first made a huge difference for me. Now, skip forward a long time. I recently was talking to a manager who is doing performance reviews for their employees. And there was one particular employee, a young woman. She's probably in that mid to late 20 range. And she got a rating that is developing. And it's not saying that she's failing, although she took it that way. She has things to learn, but she's in her 20s. Of course you have things to learn, right? But she didn't agree with her rating of developing. She thought she was really strong and she was doing great because she was getting her job done. And technically, she's phenomenal. The manager says her technical skills are fantastic, but she's in a position where she works as part of a team, and having strong team collaboration and working well within that team is a huge part of the success of the team and her success. And she struggles with some of the team members. And so when feedback was given to her about, okay, yes, technically you're great, but you need to work on your teamwork and your interactions with your coworkers and your ability to collaborate. She got really defensive and started arguing and wanted specific examples. So the manager went back and got examples and shared those examples with this young lady. And she argued that no, that's not right. That's them. She wasn't interested in feedback unless that feedback was aligned with her own perception of work. She wasn't interested in what anybody else thought. She only cares about her perspective. And she's spending a lot of time and energy trying to convince this manager that what they heard is wrong. And it wasn't one data point. We're talking multiple data points. And so there's this interesting dynamic going on where she says she wants to grow and she's ready for this next level and she should be recognized at this next level, but she's not interested in what anybody else has to say about that. She's not interested in feedback. She says she's interested in growing in the organization, but she's not interested in hearing what she needs to do to get there. It's going to hurt her. it's hurting her right now because now the manager is kind of going, yeah, we really need to work on this, but she's not willing to work on it. So this is how curiosity can help you. Being interested in what's going on with others. One, it helps you build connections with people like I did. And that helps build people's respect in you. And then they're going to listen to you. And guess what? Then you start getting recognized for what you're doing. And the next part of that is that when you're being recognized for what you're doing and what you're bringing to the table, then people are going to listen. And if you're interested in that feedback, interested in hearing what other people have to say for you, to you for your own growth, you're going to grow further and faster because you're hearing other people's perspectives. We can get blinders on and lose sight of the impact we're having. So being curious about what other people are seeing on how you're doing can help you grow that much faster. And if you want to be heard and respected for what you bring to the table, stop and listen. Get input, get insights, make connections with people. You don't have to like them all. You don't have to go out drinking with them, but make those connections. Listen to others so they'll stop and listen to you. And it starts with being curious, being interested in what's going on with other people. And that's how you can use curiosity at work as a woman in STEM to grow your career. If you found this useful, please subscribe. You can also check out my Instagram at Carol S. Doherty. I've been posting a lot on this. I also have the Midweek Madness break where I talk about career growth opportunities. You can register for that. There's a link on my page. Have a fantastic day.